This is where we have to really talk about, what is the role of the employer and what are their obligations. And, if someone has a physical injury and it's occurred outside of work, it's actually not the employer's responsibility to take care of that person. But a reasonable employer would go, well, look, we want you to be at work. We want to help you to remain productive, right? So we'll get you a wheelchair, or we'll give you light duties so you can still contribute to the team and be productive. And when people come into work with mental illness, again, it's not the role of the employer to cure that mental illness for that person, but they have to make sure that they are creating a work environment that's not going to exacerbate that mental illness. And this is where they need to think about the root causes of work-related stress. So things like workload or lack of autonomy or poor support from colleagues or supervisors. So that's actually the role of the employer, to create a healthy and safe work environment so that when people come to work, they can leave it in at least as good a condition as when they arrived, if not a better condition when they arrived. So it's really the same goals as physical health and safety, right? That's what we're trying to do. And that's what we need to understand that employers' roles are. So when we talk about things like the provision of EAP, counselling services for employees, that's actually not an employer obligation. Now, it is becoming something that is kind of expected, right? That employees will do that, and it's good social responsibility, if you like. But it's not a obligation, definitely not a legal obligation for companies to provide that. But funnily enough, they seem to be failing in many instances in their legal obligations of identifying and mitigating stress or sources of stress that make people ill.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's more of a kind of a goodwill effort, or a way of looking after employees long term, keeping them engaged with the business, ensuring that they can contribute, and recognizing the fact that things happen in life, stress occurs, or mental illness or periods of poor mental health occur. So people go through it.
Yeah, people can get injured like you did, mate, with your neck. I've had a spinal fusion myself, L5S1. And, a generous employer or an empathetic employer would go, well, look, Ian's, injured himself, trying to keep himself fit and healthy in his time off, hurt himself, that's unlucky. We're not going to penalise him for that. We're going to work with him to see how he can still be a contributor to the team, rather than saying, oh, no, Ian's no good anymore. We're going to toss him to the side. So, it's really about understanding that. And I think employers sometimes get confused, and maybe that's why they are a little bit apprehensive about dealing with mental health in the workplace, because they're like, well, that's really an employee thing. That's not our thing. And in many instances, it's actually not the employer's responsibility, but they do still need to think about the work environment and the contribution of that to people's wellbeing over time.